Hello you sexy beasts and welcome back to War Thunder patch 1.67. This time we're taking a look at the American Tier 2 Premium, the T14. The T14 is a red rating 4.3 and features the 75mm M3 cannon. Besides the minor armament, you also have a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun and a Browning M2 on the top. So far a pretty standard weapons load of what you would expect from an M4 Sherman, for example. The gun handling is pretty standard for American tanks, pretty good turret rotation speed and a vertical guidance between -10 and 25 degrees. Reloading rate is as we expected very fast for the 75mm M3 gun with 5 seconds on a fully upgraded crew and about 6.5 seconds on a stock crew. Now this tank is classified as a heavy tank in the game and this is quite justified. At a battle rating of 4.3, this tank has a 50mm armor plate on the front, but which is very well sloped and as such can reach anywhere between 78 to almost 100mm of effective armor. Now of course you have this massive weak spot over here, which is flat and only 50mm thick, and sits right in front of the machine gunner. If you are lucky, the optics in the machine gunner's face will absorb most of the fragments, but it is definitely a spot that you have to try and hide as much as you can. The turret itself is also pretty strong, 100mm on the sides pretty much all the way around to the back, which will bounce most of the shots due to the rounding. And the flat part of the turret's front is about 76mm thick, not too good, and it's quite a big area, so you have to try and hide those. Then you have the gun middle itself, which is 88mm thick, plus another 50 on top, acting as, well, double-layered armor, which should be good enough to bounce most shots. Side armor isn't all that special when you look at it, only 50mm thick, as well as the lower side actually being thicker than that at 63. Now given the rather boxish appearance of this tank, you can actually effectively use this thing in angling situations. Angle the tank around like this, you can get around 120mm of effective armor all around. Now do keep in mind one thing, when angling this tank you are kind of exposing the sides of this weak spot over here, which is actually beneficial when you're facing off against AP rounds, for example, since it will simply go through and maybe kill the driver, but you're also going to make it even easier for enemies with APHE shells to go through and damage your tank. This is that big weak spot I have to really point out, so if you can, try and hide this as much as you can. Looking at the X-ray model, you have a pretty standard crew loadout, 5 crew, driver, machine gunner, gunner on the right hand side of the turret, so left when you are facing it, the commander right behind him, giving him emotional support, and the loader on the left side of the turret, or well, right side when facing him from the front. Is very confusing. Now thankfully there's absolutely no ammunition in the turret and this is a very welcome addition. However, you do have these massive ammo racks in the middle and the bottom of the tank. Okay, I say massive, they aren't all that massive. The most exposed ammo rack is definitely this one, where, well, it's just right behind the driver and the machine gunner. But these bottom ammo racks are actually pretty well protected, and as such I am expecting this thing to not suffer from ammo racks all that often. Now finally, before you head off into arcade and realistic mode, again, timestamps in the description down below if you want to skip to a certain game mode, one thing I have to really mention is the mobility. Now keep in mind, I haven't driven this thing yet, this is going to be a first-hand experience for me as well as for you, but looking at the stats is not too good. 38 km/h top speed is not bad by any say, but given that this only has a 500 horsepower engine on a 42.6 ton tank, I'm not expecting this thing to be too mobile. At least not in tank realistic mode. Anyways lads, enough rambling around, we are going to take this thing into arcade mode first and see how it performs. Now that was pretty damn quick, we pretty much immediately got into battle. Alright, we are in arcade mode in T14. Looking at the loadouts, we might have some problems, although that's a Panzer IV F2, that's a 3.7, so we seem to be not quite at the bottom, I don't think. But we are just about right in the middle, I believe. Now it's all going to depend on what kind of tanks the enemy has. Keep in mind, this thing has decent armor, but it's not the best around. 50mm plates angled back to around 100mm effective armor. There are tanks that will have no trouble getting right through that. Panzer IV F2 may be able to go through. The German tank destroyers will have absolutely no problem dealing with this thing. Stuff like the Marder, stuff like the Stugs. We're going to have to see how this thing performs. Now keep in mind, we only have the 75mm M3 cannon, which is not the best one around. It does definitely have some penetration problems, so I'm not even going to try to shoot at the K1, unless we can get closer and use APTS. But stuff like Panzer IIIs are not a problem. Alright, let's see if we can PTFO this and get ourselves a Valentine, which we should be able to, yes. Ooh, nice. The one thing I do really like about this gun in general, about the 75mm M3 is the explosive is pretty damn nice. It doesn't have much on paper, but for some reason it really performs really well. Moving on to the A flag, can't quite get a shot on those guys, I don't think. Which might be problematic later. Now we can use this awesome gun depression for something. Actually. The question is, do I want to expose my tank? The enemy team hasn't really made it onto here yet, have they? Not even going to try to shoot at the KV-1, that's just no. Forget that. They are flanking around though, they are flanking around from the seaside, so I think I'm going to go right for that flag and trying to flank them. Counter-flank the flankers, essentially. Just after capturing this flag, which we just did. Alright. Now we have to keep an eye on our flanks. We only have 50mm of flat armor on the sides, which is not good by any stretch of the imagination. This means we some AI tank zone here, yes. T26 is down, there's a T14. Let's load the APCR, shall we? Alright, got his gunner. Transmission is slightly damaged, but that's not a problem. Got his loader as well. And he's committing a big error by going right in front of us and allowing us to shoot the transmission again. His gunner is back up, alright, and he's dead. Never mind. Gonna loot APHE again. Alright, let's go on to the C flag, see if we can actually win this game. Actually, we are winning this game, we are 2 flags to 1, nice. I do like it when you have nice teams. Now I could stop and repair this transmission, but honestly, in arcade mode, unless your transmission is actually red or black, it doesn't make that much of a difference. And since we are a heavy tank anyways, we're not going to move anywhere fast. Again, we have to keep in mind, we only have 50mm of flat side armor. This is very risky. This is very risky what I'm doing right now. And I'm not liking it, but we seem to have survived just fine so far. Now one thing you have to keep in mind as well is, since this thing is rather a large target and not the most maneuverable around. Oh god, it's a Calliope. You have to keep an eye out for enemy aircraft, for example. By the way, this thing gets stabilization. It doesn't seem to get stabilization, which is interesting. Not good, not good, not good, come on. Just survive. Actually, whilst we're here, we're going to... Oh god, bad idea, bad, whoop, whoop. Aircraft! What did I just say about aircraft? God damn it, even. Russian aircraft. It's a Russian P-47. Alright, we are repaired and ready to go. The KV-1 can not really do anything against us, but that Marder can, definitely. So, let's dispose of him. Yeah. Not much damage against the Marder, actually. Doesn't have enough armor to actually trigger our fuses, which is interesting. With the cannon drive, can we get his gunner? Come on. There we go. Target down. 3-inch gun carry, not even going to try to penetrate that thing. You definitely have to choose your targets in this thing. The gun is not the best one around. And this actually really leads me to a quite interesting conversation about unbalanceable tanks, given the recent... Well, I say recent, it's been a while now, but... Given the recent debacle of the... Did not go through. Okay, hold on. Given the recent debacle of the Jumbo M4A3 with the 75mm gun, you have to keep in mind something, right? When balancing a tank, you have to look at 3. Oh god, he had no problem going right through us. You have to look at 3 different aspects of a tank: armor, mobility, and firepower. Now, very good tanks generally have a blend of all of them, like for example the T14, which are all very good all-round tanks. Or you can have specializations, like for example the Dicker Max, which has no armor and very bad mobility, but an absolutely amazing gun. Then you have the T29, for example, which has excellent armor and an excellent gun, but poor mobility yet again. Now, there are many different combinations of these 3 values that you can have, right? You can have good gun and good armor, you can have good gun and good mobility, you can have good armor and good mobility, although not many tanks have good mobility and good armor, and a bad gun. But then you have stuff like the M4A3 Jumbo, for example, which has mediocre mobility, not the best one around. A very bad gun, like an absolutely abysmal gun. The 75mm at 5.3, where the battle rating of the Jumbo was at previously, just couldn't work. You couldn't penetrate anything. Even at 4.3, we were having trouble penetrating stuff. And then it has absolutely mind-bogglingly amazing armor. As an armor of a heavy tank, there would be 1 or 2 battle ratings higher than that. And those kinds of tanks that have excellent armor but bad guns, are very hard to balance for one simple reason. If you up tier it, the armor becomes less useful, but then they cannot penetrate anything. The gun becomes absolutely useless, right? But if you down tier it as to make the gun usable, then all of a sudden the armor becomes absolutely overpowered and nothing can penetrate the thing. And the perfect example of that is the Jumbo. The 75mm Jumbo, to take an example here, we used to be at 5.3 battle rating. A battle rating where it would often face tanks that would have absolutely no problem going straight for its armor from the front, but it couldn't use the gun in return. The 75mm M3 is woefully under-equipped to deal with tanks at 5.3. And as such, nobody would play it. The Jumbo was almost never played, because it was quite honestly just a very bad tank. What Gaijin did, the only change that Gaijin did to the Jumbo was down the battle rating by 0.6. It's not even all that much. 0.6, it's a decent battle rating downsize, but it's honestly not that much. But that 0.6 change changed the Jumbo from being a completely underpowered tank to being a borderline overpowered tank, where the gun can now work against stuff like the Panzer IVs, the T34s and stuff like that, but the armor is absolutely amazing at its own tier. And especially when you get down tiered and face stuff like the 3.3 tanks. Now 3.7 tanks, excuse me. When you face 3.7 tanks, which you will do often, since that's where all the T34s, that's where all the Panzer IVs are, that's where all the early M4s are. When you face those tanks, you are going to absolutely seal club them, because you have no problem going through their armor, but they cannot get through your armor through the front. So this very small change in battle rating of 0.6 has absolutely changed how the Jumbo plays. It has changed it from a tank that was barely used, never really used, and now it's abused, if that makes any sense. And I am slightly fearful of this happening with this tank as well. However, not to the same extent. I actually have to praise Gaijin here for giving this tank a pretty reasonable battle rating. It's not too high to where you wouldn't be able to use the gun and the armor would be useless. But it's not low in the sense that your armor is completely overpowered. The armor of the tank is decent, sure. But it's not all that powerful. You only have 50mm, right? And especially the side armor is only 50mm thick as well and flat. As such, enemy tanks will not have any problems going through you if they know what they're doing. Especially with the massive weak spot of the hold on. Especially with the massive weak spot of the machine gun port on the front. So as such, I have to say, kudos. This tank seems to be pretty well balanced. I couldn't really say if this thing's over or underperforming. Now, of course, we don't have much battle experience just yet. We will have to see how the how it goes out, how it's going to stabilize itself. Keep in mind, the first couple of days after a patch are always the most chaotic, since everyone wants to try out the new tanks. But so far, it seems nice. It seems very nice. Alright, enough rambling about the Jumbo. This is a T14 video. So, let's try this thing in realistic mode. Nothing around here, we can advance. I have to say, I slightly forgot how to play realistic mode, essentially. Because I'm just so used to playing arcade mode now, since, well, I pretty much gave up our realistic mode in tier 5. Oh, I see you, I see you, I see you. And not quite enough. Still target undamaged. Yes, it's a little trick, by the way. You can simply... Gun is damaged, okay. Oh, hello. There we go. Interesting, we do seem to have lost some penetration doing that. So shooting through the house is definitely a valid tactic, but you lose penetration doing that. Alright, we got a 105 on this side. I think there's a gun carrier over here. Or a churchill of some sorts. Yeah. I didn't quite give the gun enough time to saddle. He's dead. Alright. I'm actually not going to go for the cap. I'm actually going to fortify the outside area. I'm not sure if there's anything left in there, but let's just say I don't want to get flanked by anything. Getting flanked in the tank is a death sentence, right? And I would very much appreciate if my team actually went for the cap zone. Which, okay, given I am not doing myself, but I'm actually trying to play the objective here by cutting off any kind of enemy reinforcements. But we could use that cap zone by now. Alright, seems like nothing. Oh! Yes, there is. Oh, hello. That did nothing. Where did you go? Oh, hello. Will you die already? There we go. Alright, team is capturing the zone. I think I'm actually going to sit here. This is a pretty good spot, by the way. You can use the background as camouflage, since you are brown just as the sand is. You have a perfect view over this rock so you can see any enemy coming in. And you have this rock here to use as cover. Actually, never mind, I got bored. Alright, let's see if we can actually find the rest of the enemy team. They seem to be slightly on the retreat right now. So I think we're actually going to win this game. Overall, I have to say, I'm actually quite liking this tank. It's not bad. You get to have a heavy tank that's similar in playstyle to the Jumbo, having the same gun. Being much lower profile, actually. This thing is a much lower profile than the Jumbo, which is nice. But of course, having a slightly lower battle rating, which actually means that slight battle rating down tier actually is a huge change, given that you cannot face Tiger 1s, for example. So you're not going to face Tiger 1 88mm guns, which will absolutely rip through the Jumbo as well. But still having that nice balance right in between where the gun is still usable. Not the best, it never was the best gun. But the gun is definitely still usable, and you have just about enough armor to actually deflect most enemies coming in. So overall, I would have to say, I think for about 1,900 gold needles that this thing costs, it is not a bad choice. The only thing I have to say though, this is a tier 2, which means that you can only use this tank to research between tier 1, 2, 3. So if you're buying this tank expecting to use it to grind tier 4, I'm sorry to inform you, but you can't. For that you will have to get the Cobra King, for example. But so far, yeah, I'm liking this thing. Not expensive and quite fun. Alright lads, anyways, this seems like the end of the game. There's nothing else coming in, there's just aircraft flying around. So we're going to meet you in the hangar. Alright, so what are the impressions on the T14 Premium Rank 2 American Heavy Tank? Overall, I have to say it's average, really. It's quite balanced, I have to say. It's at pretty much at the perfect battle rating I would give it myself. It has decent armor, but of course a massive weak spot over here, and it's very easy penetratable from the side. That's what she said. The gun is decent at this tier, definitely not the best around, and will be a problem when you get up tiered, but honestly, up to 5.3, you shouldn't be facing too many tanks that you will have problems penetrating with this thing. So overall, I don't know what else to say. It's an average, good, versatile heavy tank. So the question then is it worth buying? Again, that depends on you. One thing I can say you is that for the price, the tank is quite good, at only about 2,000 gold needles. However, keep in mind this is only a rank 2 tank, alright? You can only use this thing to research up to rank 3. If you research rank 4, you're going to have massive RP penalties. So if you're expecting to buy this thing to grind tanks, you're probably better off buying one of these. Especially this one. Just saying. But if you just want to have fun and you want to have a heavy tank before the M6 and the M4A3, well, there you go. So lads, hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave it a like rating, subscribe if you're around here. We are not today, this last video for today, but we're going to continue with further tank reviews and aircraft reviews for all the new vehicles in the patch as the days progress. Might actually do a guide on the RU251 to explain everyone how you actually use that thing. And M8 Scott seems pretty interesting. Type 87, Type 60M ATGM missile from the Japanese. Lots of new vehicles. Anyways lads, I'm going to see you then. As always, my name is MikeGoesBoom and thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find